Want to do better? Then it's time to change the story. Welcome to our show about new visions currently transforming the world through the confluence of art, tech, and innovation. And now your hosts, Michael Ashley and Neil Sahota.
Welcome to another episode of Changing the Story. We have a phenomenal guest today, Saurabh Suri. He is the managing partner and CIO at CerraCap Ventures. He has over 15 years of experience in the technology industry, and most recently he served as the vice president for emerging solutions, innovation, and investment at UST Global. Saurabh has significant experience in creating, growing, and sustaining technology products and solutions in a global operations environment, having lived and worked on 4 continents. Wow. Saurabh has a degree in Neuro-computation and a research background in high-performance computing from the United Kingdom. He also serves as an advisor, observer, or board member on several high-growth technology companies such as Abzooba, Third Eye, and OnePage. Hey, Saurabh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Neil. And by the way, the reason for so many continents is no country could stand me after a certain amount of time. Shuffled around all the time.
Saurabh, I only have one thing left on my bucket list, is to go to Antarctica, because I've been to every continent except that one.
There you go. You and me both, Neil. We will bundle up and hike up there.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. So, Saurabh, as a visionary, what is the story that you want to bring to the world?
So that's a fascinating and a difficult question. To be honest, I've always been fascinated by the maxim of do more for more with less, which essentially translates to doing more things for the betterment of more people with less resources. And since I'm a card-carrying member of the Nerd Society, if you would, doing this with the help of technology. And this maxim for me, and this story and this vision for me encapsulates in a way all the biggest challenges we face today, whether it be climate change or population health or equality, of doing more things for the betterment of more people with less resources. So that essentially is that new story that I'm constantly striving to build with the world, to bring to the world, and the kind of companies that we try and invest through our VC.
So it sounds like we're looking for a lot of innovation, a lot of innovators, disruptors. We all know that they need funds, resources, opportunities. How do you help make this happen? I mean, how does this work?
A lot of luck, but no. I had this phenomenal entrepreneur, who kind of oversimplified it a bit for me. But he's like, Saurabh, and this is a guy who's done 2 unicorns. And he was like, listen, you want to build $1 billion company, find $100 billion problem and just take 1% of market share. Okay. Now, of course, easier said than done. But what we try and do through CerraCap first is put all companies through this filter. Are they having that impact? Second is then create that ecosystem to enable that. We call something called the sales and scale model, where what we essentially do is first we invest in the company. You got to put your money where your mouth is. So you invest in the company and then actually drive them into the market, drive purchase orders, drive revenue, drive that growth through the connections that we have, and then create an ecosystem around them. Ecosystem of clients, ecosystem of talent, and ecosystem of people with the right vision in that area, right? And there again, I see a lot of entrepreneurs who chase the most visible problem, right? To say, okay, what they say, there's a Simon Sinek approach. I love the guy who says, ask about the why, right? But that goes into sometimes the most visible problem. We try and push them to say, don't look at the most visible problem, try and look at the most valuable problem and drive it from there. So that's the route and the approach that we use.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fascinating way to look at it. So let's say you have an entrepreneur and they are doing all of the things that you're mentioning, right? They're looking at the most valuable problem that they can solve. How can they get started?
First, build the right team. Okay. I know, listen, everybody comes in, I've got this amazing problem. I got this amazing angle, da-di-da-di-da. It's all for naught if you don't have the right team, right? Okay. That's the first thing. You have to, and it sounds preachy, it sounds oversimplified, but you have no idea how important that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first is make sure you have the right kind of people around you. When I say build the right team, I don't mean just the people you hire. I mean the people you surround yourself with, right? Advisors, investors, partners, or whatever it be, right? So, that's that. The second is have that clarity on what you're trying to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's vision and then there's vision. And both aspects need a lot of clarity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once you have that, then comes third, and some would say probably the most important piece of that equation, which is execute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, as a VC, we have hundreds of companies that come through our doors, all phenomenal people, phenomenal ideas, right? But even the best idea on the planet is worth nothing till it has somebody and a team that can execute against it, right? So at a high level, again, there are a lot of pieces in between. But when you're looking at a first-time entrepreneur trying to start it out, if you look at those fundamentals, you can't go wrong.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. But my experience with entrepreneurs and founders, there's some really good ones. There's some, I'll call it green ones, that need a little seasoning. But the green ones always come in and they think, I've got like the greatest idea, I've got the best solution. And it's like, well, how do you know that? What kind of research, customer surveys? Like, well, I talked to my friends and family, also it was a great idea.
Yeah.
How do you vet that out?
Right. Listen, there's no shortage. And frankly, I'll step up. I've been guilty of drinking my own Kool-Aid a lot of times as well. Right. Again, it's, there's the other things. It's not about who you know or who you talk about. It's about who talks about you. Right. And the essential aspect around that is when we look at new ideas, new entrepreneurs, new technologies, et cetera, you have to have the validation against it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this validation is always from the end user, okay? A very interesting statistic for you, again, apologies, nerd, et cetera, but an interesting statistic is 42% of all startups fail for just one reason: lack of a product market fit, which in simple terms essentially means they built something nobody wanted to buy.
Right.
Right. And over here, you have to have two filters, especially at least for us in today's age, right? You have to have the filter of value. What is the value you're bringing to, a community, a society, or et cetera. And then the second filter is, are you actually solving a problem that exists?
Sure.
Okay. Or are you actually solving a problem that those people have? And you can, flip those around. And that's the key piece. And people look at it differently. You have always talk about the why. You have product market fit. You have a lot of these things. I mean, at CerraCap, we kind of boil it down to say, okay, can we get you a purchase order? Right? Can we at least look at it through these filters? And once you've passed through these 4 or 5 filters, you're in a much better place. Now, nobody can ever predict in terms of what's going to be the next unicorn or what's going to be there. But these filters at least help get that level of surety in place, or as much of it as you can actually get in today's world.
Well, I think you're also talking a little bit about stress testing too, right? But I think that there is a unique tension or balance between, you want someone, to Neil's point, who is a little green, perhaps someone that has a certain innocence or naivete, right? Because they're willing to take a chance. They're not jaded. They're not cynical. They're a dreamer, right? You want that. At the same time, you also want to make sure that it does respond to the market, that you can stress test it, that it will stand up, and that it is solving a problem. So how do you balance that between having that aspirational quality, testing it somewhat in the market without revealing it to the market completely, because then someone could potentially steal your idea? How do you balance all of these what ifs when you're going to market?
Right. So first, and I may be a contrarian here, so apologies in advance, but the one thing I'll tell you, remove that lexicon about, oh, somebody can steal my idea.
Okay.
If somebody stole your idea, that means you did not execute fast enough. Okay. If somebody stole your idea, or it's because you weren't quick enough. Okay. People are always going to steal, right? And that's okay. But if you're faster and better, you're going to succeed. being the example, right? The second aspect, and let me give you a very interesting but topical example of leveraging technology for the greater good and doing it in a topical way and solving a problem, right? And it's one of my favorite portfolio companies called Neuro-computation, right? They've got this really powerful, amazing AI platform underneath them. And what they did recently was they kind of rose to the challenge, or the challenge of the hour, and used this amazing AI platform to get resources to the ones most in need. In this instance, around PPP loan forgiveness, the whole PPP program, etc. So they just took this amazing platform, pivoted it, and this is, again, speaks to their ability to execute.
Yeah.
Pivoted it immediately and created this PPP loan forgiveness program for community banks. Okay, so small and community banks, which pretty much serve the most needy in our society. Okay. And now they're able to reduce the processing times of these PPP loan forgiveness, etc., from a few weeks to less than a day, providing good for those people. And they're now offering, the borrower module for free to all of the small businesses over there, right? And just having launched it, the amount of inbound requests they're getting is through the roof. So they're also making money against it. It's not, there are two aspects of charity. You can do charity and give away money, or you can do good and make money. It's, in today's world, it's not an either or anymore. And so this is an example of taking an idea. Now, granted, Nirveda is already an existing company with a platform, etc. But they saw the need. They saw the impact of the need, and they executed on it. And now they're reaping the benefits against it. And not just them reaping the benefits against it, the small and medium businesses who rely on this in today's COVID environment are also reaping the benefits from there. So that's an example. I hope that encapsulates some of your questions.
Well, but yeah, and let me be a contrarian there for just a moment. It sounds like if they could respond, because that's a very topical case, right? They could get going. That only happened a few months ago, but they already had, to your point earlier, they had the people on the bus, right? They had their team, they had that infrastructure. How do you respond, and how do you get to market when you don't have those people in place if you're just getting started?
True. I mean, at last count, there are 8,600 AI platforms and startups out there. One chose to respond, right? So if you look at it, okay, so you don't have an AI platform, you can't respond to this quickly enough. That's okay. Maybe you have something different, right? Challenges are not a problem in our in today's society for us, right? So if you look at it, we have another amazing company, and I look at it in terms of fundamentals. Okay. Back in, I'd say 70s, 80s, 90s, you had the core fundamentals of society, which was food, shelter, and clothing, right? You now look at it under the new fundamentals of connectivity, security, and healthcare. The old fundamentals still stay there, but they're added on to by these new fundamentals, right? And if you look at that and look at what you have or the information you have, you can react either under the old fundamentals or the new fundamentals to actually drive things forward and make an impact. Okay. So, I mean, you look at our entire portfolio, most of them are actually first-time entrepreneurs who are just killing it, right? For example, we had Deepan Singh and Dathina that's looking at cybersecurity and data privacy. The company Viome, which has actually one of my most amazing vision statements. And their vision statement is, can we make illness optional? By looking at so what they do is look at the human microbiome and gut health, etc. Right? Deepan Singh and Dathina on the cybersecurity side. So all of these new entrepreneurs using the tools and understanding they had, right? Maybe it be in AI, maybe it be in security, maybe it be in medical, maybe it be in food quality, like a company ActShip. Have that know-how, understand what impact can you make and what value you can add, and then just execute. Kind of a long-winded answer, but yeah, there's something I'm totally passionate about.
It's fine.
You sure you hide it well, Saurabh?
I'll shut up.
I know. I think, but I think you're actually talking about something that's really important. In that a lot of people, not just entrepreneurs, always think about like, man, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that, rather than focusing on I can do this or I could do that. Right?
Yeah. I say this in a lot of talks I give as well, is like, have you ever opened an app and said, holy shit, I could do that? The difference between you and the other guy, he actually did it.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. But you have to have, and for that level of execution, you have to have that passion, right? And then just heads down and go after it.
Right.
I think, but it's passion, obviously the right team, but you have the will or the commitment to actually do it, right? It's like, I know Michael gets tired of me saying this, but it's like Yoda always said, do or do not, there is no trying.
There you go. A man after my own heart. Absolutely. I mean, Neil, I'd put it this way, when you started writing your book as well, right? There would be times that you're like, okay, fine, dude, I'm done. I can't finish. I can't do it. But it's that passion, and you've had that passion around the AI revolution, etc. You dig down deep, and you just have to keep driving on through it. That's the only way. And everything else kind of, they're going to be problems. But one of my portfolio CEOs once called me once, and he was having massive issues with the company. Brilliant man, but he was having massive issues. And he calls me and says, Saurabh, you've been through this crap before. Does it ever get any better? And I kind of thought, the right thing to do is, yes, honey, it's okay, it'll get better. And I was like, no, this guy's really good. I was like, you know what? No, it never gets better, but your ability to handle it will.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, I think, Neil, to what you were saying as well, to have that passion and that drive to just keep going.
There's a philosopher named Ram Dass who says that it's not that your problems go away, it's that you outgrow your problems as you become an adult, and they don't have the same impact on you. So, but to go back to something you mentioned a moment ago, I've often thought about this and actually debated other people about it. Do you think that drive, that passion that both Neil and you were talking about, is something that just is inherent in people, that you can't give them that will? They just have to be born with it? Or do you think it's something that over time, let's say you're lacking in it when you're younger, that you can cultivate that will that says, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to do this?
I have a very kind of a different view on that, right? I think everybody has that will and that passion within them. I think what lacking is the catalyst to spark it. Okay. Let's say I was born with the will and passion around, let's say, music. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I lived in a society that was tone deaf. Unfortunately, I'd never find the musical instrument which would ignite that passion. But if I went somewhere else and found it, right? So I think every single person definitely has it. And this goes beyond age or generation or anything of the sort. It's about having that catalyst that just sparks it. And once it's sparked, that's it. And then you definitely have to have the willpower to kind of stay with it, stay the course. I remember in the early days when we first formed CerraCap as well. And we were sitting and we were having massive amounts of problems. So my partner and I were sitting, and one day we were having, for the sake of this program, I'll just say apple juice together. And we were like, man, it's like everything's against us. And I remember we looked at each other and says, so many things are going wrong all at the same time. We've got to be doing something right. Right?
I like that.
And then just went against it. Yeah. So to answer your question, I think everybody has it. What's missing is the catalyst. Mm-hmm. And that's why I tell people, keep reading, keep exploring, keep asking stupid questions. You'll find that catalyst.
Right. Well, I mean, it leads me to think that in terms of people that, high school students that are not digging school, right, and they're not feeling motivated by these things, it seems to me that what you're saying is you have to find your bliss. You have to find whatever it is in life. And when you do, then that will be ignited. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're talking about kids in school, et cetera, I'd say that's the time. Explore. Constantly explore. It is only through the process of that constant exploration that you will find your passion, right? And Neil, I maybe don't want to date you on this, but growing up, and especially the society I grew up in, you had kind of four choices. You were going to be either a doctor or an engineer, okay, or a lawyer or homeless. Those were your four choices, right? I never fell into any of those. I mean, unfortunately, there wasn't a fifth choice which said idiot. But right now, there are more tools available. What globalization and connectivity specifically has done is provided that to more people. And that's what I'd say. Keep exploring, keep asking questions. It's okay to be stupid, right? It's okay to get out there. And the reason you're doing that is to find that spark, that thing that catalyzes, and everything else falls into place, right? Some of the most, and people say, oh, I've not found my calling yet. I say, listen, some of the most interesting 18-year-olds I know have no idea what to do, are clueless about their life. Some of the most interesting 50-year-olds I know are still in that same boat. They have but they have the wonder, and they have that piece to keep exploring.
I think this is actually a really powerful point you're both talking about. I can't remember his name, but he released this video talking about what it takes to be an entrepreneur, or just have a successful career in general. And he's very emphatic in saying, this is not about following your passion, right? Don't do what you think you're passionate about, because you may love to be a singer, but you may just be a horrible singer. You just don't have the talent for it, right? It's just kind of it is. He's like, yeah, it's not about passion. He's like, you should do what you're good at, right? And I think for us to figure that out, it's like you're saying, Saurabh, we have to explore. And I think that's the challenge or the rub that we don't get. We look at things in a box, right? I got to make so much money, or this kind of career, I want this kind of prestige, rather than thinking about, what am I really good at? Have I figured that out? Right?
Oh, absolutely. And you can create a team around it. Now, unfortunately, this is going to be recorded, so it's going to be a problem, but I'll tell you, I'm a venture capitalist. I hate venture capital. Okay? But what I love doing is, teaching other entrepreneurs from the mistakes I've made, from the success I've had, from all of that. I love working with those entrepreneurs day in and day out. I love creating those companies that have the value, right? But I have teammates who love venture capital. They love that aspect of it. And I'm fortunate enough to have those guys with me. And I'll be honest with you, I ain't good at it, but I know what I'm good at. I'm good at taking an idea, turning it into a product, taking a product, turning it into a company, and taking that company and turning it into impact. Okay. I know that's what I'm good at. So that's also the aspect of the team. You're right. You may not be good at it, right? Which I'm sorry to all my LPs who might be listening into this or whatever, but I've always been clear. I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not.
Well, and also it sounds like you also are following your bliss. You're aware of your own limitations or the things that you're not into, but you're doing what makes you happy, and you're seeing the good results because of it.
Yeah, and that comes from screwing up a lot. Okay, it doesn't come from some people talk about finding your bliss as snappity snap and it happens. No. Okay. Right. And Neil, I don't know if you back me up on this one, but yeah, you've got to make a lot of mistakes. You got to have pie in your face a lot of times, And was that Muhammad Ali who said it's not about how much you can hit, but how many hits you can take, kind of a thing. Yeah. Truer words were never spoken. So yeah, but hey, that's the path, right? That's the path you have to follow. That's the path that all of us have to follow. And yeah, you just don't be afraid of it.
Well, it's interesting because there's the old phrase, the good judgment comes from experience and experience comes from bad judgment. And in the startup world, we're always we're always advising the entrepreneurs, it's okay to fail. In fact, fail fast. Try something and learn right away and pivot. But we have a culture or a society where, failure is kind of a stigma and people are worried about that. And so they don't take enough risks sometimes. I mean, what's your advice about that? How can we overcome that barrier?
Yeah, I do think that one of the reasons for that barrier is a lack of definition of failure. Okay, because of that lack of definition, it's always associated with the negative stigma, right? Honestly, I don't know, and again, I'm generalizing over here, so pardon me, but I don't know of any successful man who hasn't screwed up at least 100 times, right? And I've been fortunate enough to be in the room with some of the most successful folks out there. And every time I ask that question, the answer is, are you kidding me? I've screwed up so many times, I can't even count. Like, what are you talking about? But then comes the definition of failure. Okay. What is, and there you made a very, very important distinction, Neil, where you said, if you're going to fail fast and fail early. Okay. It's easier to fail with your product within the first 6 months of forming your company than after you've already closed 20 purchase orders and you've got 3 million in revenue and the whole product goes flat, right? So that's the definition of failure that we look at. Fail fast and fail early. The second, and I really think that there needs to be a different word associated with it as well to take out that negative connotation of failure that exists within our society today. Right, and this is something almost it should be part of parental training or putting in there. The second aspect of the definition of failure is, what does it mean? Failure is taken in our society almost as a permanent, whereas we understand failure is nothing but just a temporary phase. It's not a permanent state of being. It's just a temporary hiccup. And almost, I think, Neil, in your next book, coin a new phrase if you could around that, because you're right. It's that negative stigma around the permanence of failure that needs to be weeded out. Failure ain't permanent. It's just another bump. So great. Let's move on.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it too is that there's a demoralizing aspect to failure because of our culture, especially here in America, where it can feel permanent if you've failed, especially to your friends and your family members. And so I think if there's some way to get over that aspect too, then you can bounce back a lot quicker.
For sure. But there's also the aspect, and there is a huge negative aspect of that, but there's a certain silver lining to it as well. Okay. And this might sound a little contrarian, because it is only once you can face and move past that, let's say, humiliation, that you become stronger and tougher to face that next challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. So rather than remove the humiliation from society in itself, I'd say temper the humiliation, but let it be there. But people need to understand that they need to accept it, take it, be tougher, be better, and move on from there, right? Again, and this is opposite. I wish I'd probably be the worst, that insightful coach kind of thing out there that says, it's okay, everything's fine. And then I'm like, you know what? It's okay. I get humiliated for a while. It's perfectly fine. But again, I don't know a single successful person out there who hasn't gone through this almost rite of passage, if you will. Right. But I'll tell you one thing that I love. We're talking about the downsides of society, but one thing I love about the new society and a lot there is the acceptance of that has gone up in leaps and bounds than it was, let's say, 20 or 30 years ago. That's what gives me hope. Right. And I feel with that same route and with guys who write amazing books and guys like you, Michael, who understand that aspect of changing, let's say, the definition of failure not being permanent, can drive that change even faster.
Yeah. Like I find this fascinating, right? Because we're talking about finding your bliss, thinking differently, getting the right team, solving the deep problem. These are all like mindsets, maybe a cultural type of thing. Saurabh, you've done really well with CerraCap and your portfolio companies on finding like this right mix or helping to create that right mix. I mean, what's the secret sauce? I mean, I really believe everyone's got a $1 billion idea. How do people get in this mindset?
Lots of apple juice.
Nice.
Apple juice.
Apple juice. No. No, I mean, the way you get to that mindset is first understanding that everything that you do or everything that you should do has to be for the greater good. Okay, that is the primordial piece. Now, of course, there's the Platoic way, which also says that altruism is the ultimate selfishness. That might be true, but you have to start with that grandiose mindset. Okay, that whatever you do has to have value, has to have impact, and for the good of the good of others. Once you have that and that understanding, the second step becomes a whole lot easier, which is then defining how do you do that? Because at that point in time, you are much more accepting of other people's problems, understanding of other people's problems, understanding of all of the challenges. That, for us at least, and I'm just talking personally, that for me then led to that third tier, right? And that third tier being, okay, now how do I execute upon it? frankly, it took a while. When I was right out of college, I just wanted to earn a buttload of money just so that I could buy a buttload of apple juice, right? But it's that acceptance of having that larger impact. And some people call it, you can call it corny, you can call it cheesy or whatever else. But the only way to get into that right mindset is to first accept that, understand that, and then move forward from there.
That's fantastic. And this has been an amazing conversation. How can more people learn about you, learn about what the great work that you're doing, and get in touch with you?
Oh, absolutely. Even during COVID, we've got open doors, responsible open doors, of course. But please do go to our website. It's CerraCap.com, CERRACAP, CerraCap.com. Whatever idea you have, whatever you need, you can reach out to us. You can always email me at Saurabh@CerraCap.com. I'm sure you'll have the right links, etc. out there. I don't want to give anybody a spelling bee test with that name. But yeah, and no, honestly, Michael, I love what you're doing. Always enjoyed everything that Neil's been doing, and thanks a lot for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been fantastic, Saurabh. We'll make sure all your info is in the show notes. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and encouraging all of us to find our bliss.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey, if you like today's show, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment.
If you've been enjoying the Changing the Story podcast series, please subscribe and share it with your friends.
Thank you.